Do you know about Association of Indian Management Schools? It's a 34-year-old networking body of B schools in India, having a membership of about 600 top management institutions. AIMS focuses on professionalization of management education, protects interests of B schools, represents management institutions at national and international forums, financially supports members in academic events, funds research projects on management, disseminates management-related knowledge through its annual Management Education Convention, conferences, seminars, roundtables and workshops, organizes free weekly webinars on knowledge sharing and inspiring young leaders sessions for management faculty and students, supports B schools in admissions through ATMA, AIMS test for management admissions. Visit https://atmaims.com for more details. Publishes a biannual AIMS Journal of Management. Visit https://aimsjournal.com for more details. Circulates a quarterly e-newsletter on AIMS activities. Conducts workshops on case writing. Encourages AIMS members to be part of decision-making processes as members of chapter management committees and the executive board. Encourages students' participation in free weekly quiz competitions by providing support to interested institutions. Facilitates networking and interaction among B schools. Why would you like to remain a non-member of AIMS? Pay a very low one-time membership fee and enjoy many lifetime benefits. Visit https://aims.org.in for more details.
Professor Qamar sir, shall we start the session?
Please, surely.
Yeah, because already 44 joined and another group of people will join one by one before we start the formally. Mr. Sunil?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we can start the session.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Sunil, shall we?
Yes, sir, we'll start.
Yeah. Very good afternoon. I am Professor P Narayana Reddy, Regional Vice President, Association of Indian Management Schools South, and also working as a Director General, the ICBM, the School of Business Excellence from Hyderabad. I am extremely happy to moderate a session on behalf of Association of Indian Management Schools on an important topic, that is national education policy and the higher education qualification framework. And I strongly feel that this particular topic is very, very important in view of the National Education Policy 2020 announced by the government of India. And most of us welcomed the new education policy. And this time, after 34 years of new education policy announced by the government of India and sweeping changes proposed in the new education policy, most of us welcomed the new education policy in spite of having number of innovative provisions in the new education policy. There are certain issues where the NEP 2020 still need to understand from different perspectives. I thought that AIMS Association of Indian Management Schools felt that there is a need to discuss the consequences of NEP 2020 and debate and disseminate information related to number of issues proposed in the NEP 2020. One such topic is the National Higher Education Qualification Framework. And after the NEP 2020 announced by the government, subsequently the UGC is coming out from time to time the more decisions as a supplements to the NEP 2020. And even recently, on 3rd November, the UGC in its meeting has released a new circular related to National Higher Education policy 2020 related to Higher Education Qualification Framework. And AIMS, being the 35 years old organization networking body, it is very, very frequently and contextually come out with the discussions on related to the contemporary issues related to education in general and management education in particular. And under the leadership of Professor Sudhir Sharma, the president of AIMS, we have been deliberating on number of issues and dimensions of NEP 2020. And today is the one such a topic that is very, very important. That's what we felt. And we requested and invited Professor Furqan Qamar, the one of the senior most educationist and administrator, and who has been associated with the higher education system of this particular country for over a period of almost 35, 40 years. So he is I thought and AIMS thought that he is the right person to share some of the issues related to higher education qualification framework. And I am very, very happy to welcome Professor Furqan Qamar to initiate a discussion on this particular topic. Along with Professor Furqan Qamar, I'm also happy to recognize Professor T.V. Rao, the father of HR in the country, is also joined. Professor Debashis Prasad from Calcutta and Professor S.S.N. Prasad Rao from Wellingkar, Mumbai. They also joined this particular session. It is just a formality to introduce some of these people. And Professor Furqan Qamar, presently a professor at the Department of Management Studies, Faculty of Management Studies, Jamia Millia, Islamia, New Delhi. He is a former Secretary General of Association of Indian Universities, the largest and one of the oldest networking of universities in the world. In his illustrious career, Professor Qamar has held the position of the Vice Chancellor of University of Rajasthan and the Central University of Himachal Pradesh. He has also served as an advisor related to education in the Planning Commission of India. With a keen research interest in public policy, planning, administration, and financing of higher education, and has numerous publications in journals of repute to his credit. Professor Qamar has chaired and been a member of a large number of committees, working groups at the national and international level. Dr. Qamar thus brings with him academic eminence, leadership qualities, and exposure to best global practices. Such an eminent person accepted an invitation to be the resource person on the webinar session of AIMS. I once again welcome him and also welcome the senior faculty members and also academicians from across the country. More than 300 people registered for this particular program of webinar. That itself shows the keen interest of the academicians in trying to learn things from different aspects of the higher education. As I mentioned to you, AIMS welcome all of you to this webinar session. I request all the participants, please mute yourself, those who are participating from different gadgets. And if you have any question, please feel free to share in the chat box. After Professor Qamar's discussion for about 30 to 35 minutes, I would like to take it up the issues that you have from your side. With these few introductory remarks, I once again welcome all of you. Now, may I now request Professor Furqan Qamar to start the discussion, and I will be happy if you can focus on what is the National Higher Education Qualification Framework and what are the challenges that this particular issue is having, and how to implement these things in the days to come so that the universities and administrators and also regulators can have a better understanding on this particular issue. With these viewers, may I now request Professor Qamar to start the discussion, please.
Thank you very much, Professor Reddy, for organizing this event and giving me this opportunity to share my understanding of the National Higher Education Qualification Framework with all the distinguished participants. I feel privileged and honored, and I feel particularly honored and humbled by the presence of Professor T.V. Rao, whom I happen to know for a few years in the past. And every time I meet him, that is a great moral boosting for me. Thank you very much, sir, for joining this lecture. This National Higher Education Qualification Framework, as Professor Reddy just said, has just been announced by the University Grants Commission. I had written a couple of pieces on this subject in Hindu and in a few other newspapers. And when I received your request to speak on the topic on which you published, that is what you said, on the same day I had published another article on who should do the recognition of qualifications. So I initially thought that perhaps you would want me to speak on that issue. But then as we progressed further and communication started, I know that I have to speak on National Higher Education Qualification Framework. Now, a few background to this document. First of all, India is a very, very late starter as far as the higher education qualification framework is concerned. Most countries of the world, of the size of India, of the complexity of India, and with a large system and diverse system of higher education, already had a higher education qualification framework. India still did not have one until the UGC notified. However, in 2012, some steps were taken that a higher education qualification framework should be put in place. The matter had gone to the Central Advisory Board on Education. There was a committee constituted, but somehow things got delayed. When the national education policy was announced, this national education policy, as you remember, mentioned that there would be Higher Education Commission of India with 4 verticals, and one of the verticals was the General Council, which was to set a standard in higher education. And according to the policy, the similar task, or one of the most important tasks assigned to the standard setting body, was to come up with the higher education qualification framework. However, HESI has yet not come. It is still in the pipeline. In the meantime, UGC has taken the initiative and has come up with this document. In the meantime, we already had National Skill Qualification Framework, which detailed about what kind of skill could be recognized and what are the requirements which people must meet in order to be certified as a skilled professional. We also had the National Vocational Education Qualification Framework, which in fact overlapped with the National Skill Qualification Framework. Also, prior to the issue of the National Higher Education Qualification Framework, the University Grants Commission issued a National Higher Education Credit Framework, which is already available on its website, and I could also share with AIMS, which you could share with your participants. And now the Higher Education Qualification Framework. And just today, there is a further addition to the National Higher Education Qualification Framework, or you could say some more clarification on the Higher Education Qualification Framework. Today, the media is full of the coverage that UGC has permitted 1 year's master's program, and you don't have to do an undergraduate degree in the subject in which you want to do the master's degree. If you could recall, the policy had said that, okay, one could do a 3 years bachelor's or a 4-year bachelor, and those with a 4-year bachelor could do 1 year master, but those with 3 years bachelor's degree have to do 3 years master. And the joke in the management education circle was that what should be the duration of MBA or PGDM program, which admit students with a BTech degree, with a medical degree of 5 years duration, with art education qualification of 3 years qualification. Anyway, hopefully some clarity would emerge. Now, I have been using this term National Higher Education Qualification Framework so frequently, and the question arises that what this qualification framework is and what does this mean. India did not have one so far, but that does not mean that India did not have a framework for offering qualifications. UGC, All India Council for Technical Education, and a few other regulatory bodies had some kind of regulation and guidelines, deciding about what should be the duration of a program of studies, what should be the measurement of quality of a program of studies, what should be the learning outcomes that would be expected from the graduates or postgraduates coming out of the school systems. So UGC itself had a regulation for first degree qualification, regulation for master's level qualification. We are all familiar with the regulation on PhD related qualifications. Most of these regulations were framed at a time when the measurements were not that standardized. So we all knew that a qualification consists of a minimum duration, a maximum duration in which it ought to be completed. Then it required that how many papers, that was the term we used to use, a person must study in order to get that degree or qualify those papers. But as time passed, globally, the terminology became more standardized. So saying one paper does not mean or does not say as to how much input from the teacher side, how much learning efforts from the student side has gone into that programs. And that gave genesis to what we call as credit, that a course, instead of using term paper, we started using course, and that started saying that a course could be of certain specified credits, and those could be 1 credit, 2 credit, 3 credits. And as time passed by, the definition of the credit also changed. So most conventional, the oldest definition of the credit were that, okay, if there is 1 hour of teaching per week, that course is of 1 credit. But then that did not provide the flexibility. So gradually we moved to a system whereby we said that, okay, 30 hours of teaching would amount to 3 credit of course, whether it is done in one go or it is done in a spread manner. And I think the most recent framework that we have, which is globally accepted and working in as diverse a situation as in India, is the European Credit Framework or European Higher Education Qualification Framework, which drew something from the Bologna process, which started with a lot of discussion with all stakeholders. All countries of the European Union, they had many diversities and they earlier had many different ways of measuring qualification and naming qualification and using various terms. So they tried to standardize, and that was a very long, drawn procedures to standardize terms, etc. So in India, this idea of the National Higher Education Qualification Framework provides that up to 4.5 levels. So there are levels of qualification. So up to 4.5 levels of qualifications are considered to be related to school education qualification. And from 4.5 level onward are the qualification relating to higher education. Moving up to level 8, and level 8 would be the PhD level qualification. What this higher education qualification framework does, which has been issued by UGC, that it provides you the descriptors for various qualifications. So these descriptors are given in a what I would say in a descriptive format as to what would be expected. If you could allow me to share the screen, I'll just share one examples of the description.
Please do.
So. I hope this screen is visible to you. So giving all the details, I'll just come to the way the UGC describes. Number one, it gives us the qualification, its titles and nomenclature. Presently, this task was being done by another regulation of the University Grants Commission that was called as specification of degrees. Now that has been incorporated here in the National Higher Education Qualification Framework. And I think by and large, there is nothing new in this because we are already familiar. The only thing that might appear new is the integrated program, but integrated program has also been in practice for quite some time, both in engineering education, law education, in education itself, and a number of other things. In terms of level, as I mentioned, that level 4.5 deals with certificates. Its duration is defined 1 year. That is after +2 level of qualification. And in this new framework of national education policy, after 15 years of schooling under the new framework. Level 5 could be described as the diploma level qualifications, level 5.5 as the 3 years bachelor's degree. Level 6 is the bachelor's degree of 4-year duration, and so on and so forth, and it goes up to level 8 of the doctoral level. So even in terms of level, we have all been familiar. What change has happened is that presently we knew that we have an undergraduate degree, we have a master's degree or postgraduate program, and we have a research degree, MPhil and the PhD kind of qualifications. Now we are seeing that in between, certain qualifications of different durations have been inserted. Then in terms of expectation, what they call as graduate attributes have been defined, which is based on the learning outcome. And in management education, we are quite familiar because the NBA accreditation has been based on outcome-based or learning outcome-based. Now, this description in many other higher education qualification framework would be more precise, measurable, and quantifiable. Here, it is giving you a broad descriptions, leaving a lot at the level of the institution or requiring the University Grants Commission to come up further with more precise measures of these kinds of outcomes, that how to measure them, and their matrices will have to be worked out. So one is the learning outcome, which are specific to the discipline. Then there are certain generic learning outcomes that have been specified in the qualification. In a school or CBSE curricula, mostly we have been using higher order thinking, kind of knowledge or kind of learning. So here they have described it into complex problem solving, which we do in our management education through case study methods. So I wouldn't say that there is anything new. Critical thinking, we have been testing in our admission process the critical thinking, Most business schools have focused on creativity through design labs, through innovation labs, by enabling people to think of creative solutions, often quoting from people uh, as to how you can think out of the box. These days, people often make a joke that since there is nothing in the box, therefore you are talking about thinking out of the box. But I wouldn't go to that extent. Management education has been focusing on communication skills as a general attributes. Most other qualifications, including some of the best research-oriented disciplines, communication has been a missing link. So I think this higher education qualification framework, in a way, is learning from those disciplines where there are some best practices, and management education could be said to be having this. And similarly, the analytical reasoning. Now, one thing that has come presently, our undergraduate programs and postgraduate programs, they have all been extension of one another. And in many cases, they have been a repeat of one another. So what a student learned in school level qualification, almost similar thing he learned in statistics at the undergraduate level and then at the master's level. Students in management programs have been involved into their summer projects, internships, so that had some elements of research. But I think learning from the global evidences involving students into a research process, such a manner that they could take up some projects under the guided or supervised research. And this will, in fact, create new knowledge or would enable me to get trained into developing new knowledge or become familiar with the creation of new knowledge, or at least addition of new knowledge. So this research-related skill is being emphasized. Of course, team working, leadership, learning how to learn kind of skills are needed. And many people would say that learning how to learn has become extremely critical in this era when there is a knowledge expansion and things are changing so rapidly that we do not know today what will be relevant tomorrow by the time our graduates come out. So what will sustain our graduates, what will make them more employable or useful for the society and the economy is their ability to learn themselves and to upgrade their knowledge rather than depending solely on the knowledge that they have acquired. Of course, the technological skills have become critical, and most of the time we mean by it the information technology skills or the computing skills. And these days it has become far more easier, but is still orienting people towards them and requiring people to use this technology in their teaching and learning is something which is being emphasized in these qualification framework. Another thing which is often quite controversial and disputed is the value orientation, value inculcation. Everyone says that students, we are into the process of making a good human being, and therefore all good human values ought to be inculcated amongst students. What should these values be? There are differences of opinions. Some people would draw the basis for these human values, the religion as a basis for human values, spiritualism as a basis of human values. Some people may want to go back into their history to draw their value. A few other documents that may have come up, or there are some indication in the national education policy that it seeks to draw our ancient value wants to go back to the tradition of Takshila, Nalanda, Vedas, and they are speaking to 64 kalas and so on and so forth to emphasize on multidisciplinarity. There are others who are saying that we are now into the business of preparing people for future, and we are into the business of preparing people for the world, not only for India. Therefore, the global orientation has to be there. And therefore, you will find some reflection of sustainable development goals as a value that need to be inculcated amongst people. The environment, social responsibility, citizenship education, and many people would say that the best value that we could incorporate amongst our children is the value that our constitution emphasizes. So constitutional value and the education relating to constitution. But this is one aspect about the higher education qualification framework where there is lot of debate. Now, so environment awareness has come. We all know that right from the very beginning, we have been saying that higher education has triple goal combined into one. One is the dissemination of knowledge. Second one is the development of new knowledge. And the third one is extending the benefit of this knowledge to the community, either to the immediate neighborhood and then later to the wider neighborhood or wider community. So earlier, teaching, research, and extension was the name. Now it has become teaching, research, and community engagement, or teaching, research, and community connects. So these things have been brought into this National Higher Education Qualification Framework. So it is good that now people know that when we are designing a course, when we are designing a program, what all we need to try to achieve through our curricula, through our pedagogy. Same thing have been discussed in this higher education qualification framework, that these attributes have to be translated through some descriptors. And we know that knowledge, skill, application, these are, so there are some components and there are some descriptors, again given in a very descriptive form, the knowledge and understanding, whereby a person is knowledgeable. So going a bit beyond information, not a bit beyond, but quite beyond information. Information is not knowledge. Repeating facts is not knowledge, but relating facts to create or to generate new knowledge or to make sense out of those information is the knowledge. So the focus ought to be in the knowledge and understanding by the students. Technical skill, which is the application-oriented knowledge, that you should be able to apply that knowledge. For that, you should know the knowledge such that you could apply in practical settings. You need to have necessary skills. And then you must apply this knowledge and skill to the real problem solving that you come across in your life or in the life of the organization. And therefore, you would know that what is new in the knowledge management system, in knowledge organization, we have been talking about these things, and then there are generic outcomes. Now, this way it describes for all levels of qualifications. And now a few critical aspects that when I go through from level 4.5 to level 5 to level 6 to level 5, these descriptors look quite similar. Whereas these descriptors have to be different, at least in terms of level. And that is where the input from the teachers who are actually delivering a course on ground will have to be very handy. The second problem that I see in these documents are that these documents do not specify the quantitative measures. Those of us who are applying outcome-based learning, we know that how difficult is the challenge. So you decide the program outcome, then you link it with the course outcome, and then in the course outcome, you decide that when you test students, how each question is able to test what kind of outcomes that the course intends to achieve, and then from the course to the institution, and from the institution, from the course to the program, and from program to the institutions. So this is far more complex process. I think those detailings are still missing. Now a few more how to close this.
Sunil, Dr. Sunil, can you help? Close the PPT. Dr. Sunil.
Dr. Sunil, are you there? Could you help me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, he wants to close the presentation. Yeah,
Stop.
okay, now it's okay.
I've been able
Yeah.
to. Thank you, Sunil. Your voice itself was helpful. So this is something which is still missing. The second fact that I had highlighted in that article was that the National Higher Education Qualification Framework is supposed to simplify things, supposed to bring all those things together in an integrated manner so that there is no room for any confusion or any chaos. Presently, what we are finding is that there are multiple regulations that are in place. For example, there is no reference in this higher education qualification framework that which of the earlier existing regulations, first degree regulations, PG qualification regulations, research degree regulations will be replaced by this higher education qualification framework. So this is not there. Then giving the national credit framework separately is again a challenge. Ideally, it ought to be integrated into the higher education qualification framework because credit is an integral part of qualification. So if we see the European higher education qualification framework, it has the credit framework built into it. And I think they rather have a more detailed discussion in the document itself that what should a credit mean. Now, this document of qualification framework will have to be now read with the credit framework document. And here, the definition of the credit continues to be a conventional definition, which may or may not suit all disciplines. So say, for example, the kind of credit definition that exists here may not be suitable to courses in fine arts, where classes are for long durations and their requirements are different. Maybe it will also not be applicable to medical education, but the medical and the legal education have been kept outside the purview of these credit documents. But most importantly, the credit definition is still based on the number of hours of teaching in a week's time. And then the semester and the trimester is still being defined in terms of the number of days of teaching. Whereas globally, they have decided that, okay, you could decide credit in terms of three components. One is that the teacher-led input, that is actually the lecture hours that the teachers deliver. And then the total student efforts which goes into learning that program. So the idea has changed Earlier idea was that it is the teacher who makes students learn. And now the newer definition is that it is the student who learns, and who learns in three different manners. One is that he is taught by teachers. Second is that the students learn from the peer and does the self-study, which we try to test through assignments, quizzes, and other things. And the third thing is that the students learn from the environment in which it exists. So policy talks about multidisciplinary environment, but this credit framework does not take into account the intermingling of these three things in that precise manner in which it ought to be. On the top of it, there is another challenge which we will have at the ground level, that there is another document different from the National Credit Framework that you know as ABC, or Academic Bank of Credit. Academic Bank of Credit is nothing but a mechanism for transfer of credit. Transfer of credit is an old idea. You could recognize prior learning, you could recognize learning from other places, and then once those credits are recognized, they could be counted in the overall basket of the courses that a student does in order to certify a qualification at a particular level. So this was an old idea. Now, in our enthusiasm, we have gone a step ahead. We said, okay, every student shall have an account of the kind which you have, like a demat account. When you invest in shares, you open a demat account. You could go on learning from anywhere. Not necessarily from the institutions where you have taken admission. There could also be a provision for self-learning or prior learning. Some people learn out of the profession to which their family belongs to. So sweet making, for example, in the skill qualification is recognized as a learning, and they say that, okay, child learns from the parents and so on and so forth. Now, Academic Bank of Credit is making things far more complex, and it's creating confusion amongst the institutions. Now, within the institution, if your student takes some course, leaves the course or takes mid-course exit, and wants to come back after some time, a predefined time, then it is far more easier. So say, for example, a student has taken admission in an MBA program in IIM Ahmedabad. Instead of doing all the 2 years or all the total requirement, he does 1/4 of the requirements, takes a mid-course exit, comes back after, say, 3 years' time or within 3 years' time to join and continue and complete. This is acceptable. Migrate, people move either because of the compulsion of circumstances, or maybe because of their economic situation, or maybe because of certain other factors. Quite often you have taken admission and you get a job and you want to take job because job is a priority. You are not very sure that after completing the education, you will get the same or better job. So credit transfer is a mechanism that is good enough. Within the institution, it is easily implementable. But the complexity where we are all confused is that what happens if somebody who takes admission in Jamia Millia Islamia, does a few credit, goes to IIM Ahmedabad, and wants their credits to be recognized. Where we don't have only linguistic diversity, regional diversity, but we also have very strong, severe academic diversity. This thing is likely to cause more problems. So say, for example, within the IIM system, people at different CAT score might be making N, and therefore some set of institution might consider themselves superior than the other set of institutions, and they may have issues in accepting the credits awarded by institutions from where the student has come, where they think is inferior. So either you have some kind of standardized testing to test that the knowledge is worth or is as good or is as equivalent as the knowledge being important or as the outcome being delivered in our institution. So that has in fact complicated things. So many institutions have not been forthcoming to adopt this. So now it has been made mandatory by asking every institute to open ABC or an account of Academic Bank of Credit for every student that the student has taken to that bank of credit, hoping that this way the student would try to go elsewhere and get their credit recognized. But I think that we are very, very far still from that situation. Finally, one more point I will mention, that this idea of multiple entry and multiple exit. So National Higher Education Qualification Framework indicates, National Education Policy emphasizes on this. It's a good idea, but then one clarification that has come from the UGC is, I think, somewhat disquieting. And that is that you link the continuation of a student from one level to another based on his grades or academic performance. So like when I had implemented this in the Central University of Himachal Pradesh, the rule was that, okay, if you are a master's level students, you could do 2 semesters and could leave. That is the multiple exit with a diploma. And if you want to, nobody would force you to go so long as you have passed those courses. And the minimum pass percentages or grade requirements are already given there. And within the next 4 years, you could come back and continue. Now here the problem is that those people who have secured A+ grade would continue to the 4th years of bachelor program. Those who are not will have to leave with a 3 years of bachelor's degree. Now we still do not know how would the market differentiate between a 3 years bachelor's degree and a 4-year bachelor's degree. But guess suggests that a 4-year bachelor's degree would probably be more preferred because employer or the recruiter might think that these people have got more input, unless a student otherwise shows. So this way we will be discriminating against those who have the 3 years of bachelor's qualification. Again, there are some practical difficulties which we will have to overcome. That difficulty is like just today's notification, which is a further explanation of this higher education qualification framework, that this 1 year or 2 years of master's degree. So I had started with that, should MBA be of 1 year or 2 years? Supposing we decide to offer a 1-year MBA program, the UGC kind of body would come that no, those students who have come after 3 years of bachelor's degree, they should get MBA in 2 years. But those who are coming after MBBS and BTech qualification or B Pharma qualification should get 1 year. Then the challenge with us is that in one class, we are essentially a multidisciplinary program. Management education has been more progressive to many other disciplines. So we never had any restrictions of the entry that you must have done your bachelor's in management in order to do master's in management. We used to admit a student from across discipline. But then the challenge is that how do we design our curricula so that some people could be out in 1 year and some people could continue up to 2 years. So there are pedagogical challenges, there are curricular challenges that we will have to face, and we do not have a clearer idea. Ultimately, higher education qualification framework must cut across all discipline if we want to truly benefit from them. Now, the UGC's writ is applicable only to general higher education. In 2012, and I was fortunate enough to make a presentation before the Central Advisory Board on Education. I had said that CABE is the most consultative body, represent states, represent variety of regulatory bodies, represent many experts, and therefore a committee of the CABE must do it so that it has a wider acceptability. Otherwise, there would still be a barrier that some student wanting to join a medical program after doing his BS or BSc, in India, he wouldn't be able to do that, while in United States, he would seamlessly be able to integrate into a medical education or legal education. So to conclude, I would say that India didn't have a framework. Now we have a framework. It is something good. It's a step forward. This document is still a document in the making. It's a work in progress that needs to integrate what is still relating to qualification but is outside this document, that all must be brought here so that the confusions could be avoided and as much clarity need to be developed. And then thirdly, it must have inter-regulatory, interdisciplinary consultations, inter-state consultations, center-state consultations. Absolutely, finally, it doesn't provide a solution to the issue which has been bothering to the standalone management institutes, many of who may be members of the Association of Indian Management Institutes. So PGDBM definition or PGDM definition given in this document does not cover non-degree awarding institutions. So we had hoped that this document should provide a solution so that those kind of issues which have been hanging fire could be sorted out and could be solved. So I'll stop here and over to you, Professor Narayana Reddy.
So thank you very much, Professor Furqan Qamar, for touching upon the major issues, that is the National Education Qualification Framework, which is one of the burning issues before most of the institutions and also regulators to implement it. And you have touched almost all the four major issues, what it is and what are the challenges that the institutions and regulators are going to face, and also the credit framework and also outcome orientation. But all said and done, as you said, that still we are making the acceptable document. So I wish that the participants and also the senior members will play a major role in helping the regulator to come out with an acceptable document. Even yesterday, frankly speaking, our Association of Indian Management Schools representatives, they are in Delhi, actually, and meeting the AICT and UGC in deciding about the BBA program, actually. Now the AICT announced that BBA program will fall under the purview of AICT, as it is 3 years or 4 years on these issues. Consultation is going on at that level. So I am sure that with the help of the stakeholders from different parts of the country, can give suggestions, and stakeholders can also give suggestions, and AICT and UGC, and of course, the proposed national level education council, which is going to come soon, may take all the inputs in having an acceptable framework. Having said that, all these things, now my point is, on behalf of the participants, I would like to raise two, three small observations, actually, not necessarily that we have to get right answers immediately, because still we are making. One is the measurable parameters for the higher education framework. See, there are, as you said, certain aspects are measurable. And there are certain issues like ethical dimensions and other related issues which are not so measurable. So can we consider the large amount of measurable factors and also some non-measurable factors into the consideration, so that we can have an integration of the both that will be acceptable to the national and international institutions? This is the first one. And the second one is that, as you said, the European higher education framework means Western institutions which are adopting certain framework already, and what we proposed in the present environment. Do you think these both are going to gel well within the framework? Why I am raising this particular issue is, our national education policy's main intention is to make the global citizen. So if you want to make the Indians educated people as a global citizens to accept the jobs and also the responsibilities in an international environment, this acceptability of credit framework is very, very important. So what do you think on these two issues?
I think both are very important points. You see, there was a time when we used to say that educational outcomes are impossible to measure. From there, we shifted that no, it is possible to measure, but you can't measure by a single number. So unlike bottom line or top line in corporates or the revenue and the profit, you have to use a matrix of measures to know about the both quality and the quantity of education. So the focus has shifted. So I will say that even value education and all parts, so every descriptor that is given there and every detail that is given there, I think we have to find a way how to measure. Some could be measurable through examinations, some could be measurable through standardized testing, some could be measurable by feedbacks, by obtaining their answers in terms of some standardized test, which experts like Professor Rao could develop for education purpose. So this is one thing. Now, so quantification has to be focused. That is what the whole world is moving. Coming to that, to what extent our higher education qualification framework matches with the global higher education qualification framework. European higher education qualification framework being the most latest. Now, as far as this description of qualification is concerned, these are called as Dublin descriptor in the Bologna process. And in fact, in one piece I had written that we have taken Dublin descriptors and we are trying to connect it to Indian scenario. But Indian scenario is far more complex than the European scenario. Linguistic diversity is there, but the religious diversity is not in Europe. So, but by and large, in terms of the credit framework, in terms of the qualification framework, it matches with the European higher education qualification framework. But European higher education qualification framework insists that a bachelor's degree should be of 3 years and a master's degree should be of 2 years. So in this regard, we have become more North American centric, and we have taken from America that the bachelor's degree program could be of 4-year duration. So we are trying to balance between the Europe and America. Then in UK, where the master's degree is of 1 year, so we are learning from there. So in this process, we have some features of the global, and we have some features which is trying to balance between X region and the Y region of the globe. And we still do not know how will it play out. So this is the situation. Yeah. And as you very rightly said that I think we have these documents available. Indian, but in sync with the global practices. Finally, I also said that, okay, they have taken something. So where they are saying that our education system would be rooted into ancient India, and by ancient India, they began from the Vedic time, no issues, no problem with regard to that. But at the same time, they are also saying that they should also incorporate the sustainable development goals or environment or climate change related challenges that are before the nation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, sir. And I have one observation from Professor T.V. Rao sir himself. He has suggested, actually, rather than raising a question, he helped us to say something. There could be bridge courses for those coming up with the 4 years degrees. However, in management, he recommends introducing credit for papers based on experience, actually. And this encourages experience and skill development on the job, actually. This suggestion, certainly, sir, Professor T.V. sir, what you said is very right. Experiential learning and recognizing the experience in terms of credit is certainly a good suggestion. Let us hope these things will come into the picture in the days to come.
Excellent suggestion. Excellent suggestion. Yes. I think the higher education qualification framework did not take that into account. They should have taken that into account.
Yes, that is one important one. And another thing is as per the NEPs 2020, the multiple exits and entries is certainly a positive step from a comprehensive, broad perspective. When it comes to the implementation level, as we have private versus public versus semi-government institutions, acceptability of means allowing the students to leave and welcoming the students at different entry levels, at a higher second year, third year, or fourth year. Practically, it looks that there is some type of resistance from the institution side, it looks. Some type of expression we have been observing from different quarters. That is one thing. Similarly, academic bank of credits, as you touched, the very right point is that academic bank of credit is another important issue and also a challenge when we think about the transferring from one to the other institution. Accepting the credits from other institutions or outside the institution is another important challenge. I wish that in the days to come, as the more and more deliberations takes place on this particular issue, I am sure that there will be a lot of change in the mindset of the managements of the institutions, actually. Once they change to some extent, I think it is possible to accept the academic bank of credits. That's what I feel so. And so what is your observation on this?
No, what I'll say, I think it is both. Yeah. We know that there is generally a resistance to change. And therefore, change management is not only about initiating some change and saying that, okay, you accept this change, but change management requires a lot of other preparation. Who would know it better than the participant here? So change management is about preparing people, creating conditions to adopt the change, ensuring that those change causes minimal interim kind of uncertainties in the system, and so on and so forth. So from that point of view also, we have to do these things. So mindset development about accepting these changes is important part, one should be done. But then there are some real challenges. For example, even if you take CAT, supposing all management institute admits student on the basis of the CAT score, you will find there is a huge gradation amongst the institutions. And it is obviously somebody might find that, okay, it is easier to get admission in X institution because he could score only this much in the CAT. And then after some time, after a semester, goes back to an institution which admits a student at a very high level of CAT score and wants their credits to be accepted. Then we also have the variations in the quality of teachers, availability of teachers, infrastructure, the pedagogical issues. Even if the UGC and the AICT provides us the detailed syllabus, the teacher teaches only what he or she knows. So nothing more, nothing less. So I think what we can do is, and what UGC and other bodies should have done is, that one is the intra-institutional mobility. Mm-hmm. So within the institution, people want to move, people want to get out and want to come in, or move from one discipline to another discipline. It is far more easier. So begin from there. Then inter-institutional mobility could follow. That will prepare ourselves to accept inter-institutional mobility. Once you have done inter-institutional mobility, then perhaps intercontinental mobility could also come in. International mobility could also come in. So these are the gradual phases. But jumping from no mobility to international mobility from across institutions, and not only in the face-to-face mode, but across many different modes of learning, I think it's a huge challenge. So inability of people to comprehend.
You're very right, actually. See, in a gradual form, we can move from stage by stage. One day we can definitely integrate ourselves into the national and international level. And Professor Ashish Joshi, he also mentioned that students who take part in the Swayam and MOOCs course is the credit part of the curriculum. And these are in addition to available credits for a particular year. That is the observation from the Ashish. And as the time is running out, and of course, with this initiation, and we have raised certain issues, and the participants in the session are also very, very seniors like Professor T.V. Rao, Professor Devaprasad Chattopadhyaya, and Professor Asalata, Ashish Joshi, Shubhashrikar, Prasad Rao, and many other seniors from Ali, Professor Ali from Oman. He joined and he also gave his observations. So all of us, actually, most of us are very senior people, and we have a lot of experience, particularly on this particular issue. And if all of us can give our perceptions and suggestions, I am sure that in the days to come, UGC, of course, UGC and AICT nowadays, they are very, very open and institution-friendly nowadays. So they are ready to accept whatever the suggestions that we have at our level. So this type of friendly environment is going to help us to have a better interaction and collaborative approach. All said and done, as you said, the last point, when the management institutions offering, whether it has to offer 1 year course or 2 years course based on the input, that is still is going to be a challenging task. I am sure that one day in the near future, we can find a suitable solution for all the challenges. But all said and done, see, now the issue is opened. Now people start debating on these challenging issues, and they also come out with the suitable suggestions. And in the days to come, we can have a better conducive environment for all the credit framework at the higher education level. So with these few words, I sincerely express my thanks to you on behalf of Association of Indian Management Schools for having accepted our invitation and shared your knowledge with all of us. And I'm sure that the document is available, I think, with the UGC website, because some of the participants are requesting to share this particular document. I'm sure that we can definitely share this particular document with your permission. So thank you very much for accepting our invitation and also being with us and sharing your knowledge. And you are not an outsider for AIMS, actually. You are the part and parcel of the Association of Indian Management Schools. You are the invited board member. So I'm very much happy to see you and also interact with you. And in the days to come, in future also, again, we may have to debate on these issues and again. Your observations and your writings are also helping the public to know more and more about these issues. With these things, I sincerely thank all the senior members who joined and also who have taken the active part in spite of their busy schedule. More than 300 people have registered for this. In fact, 100 people are actually participated in this one, and also we have given streaming on the live also in the Facebook. So there many people participated. This shows that there is a keen interest among the stakeholders. That's very important. That is what we need actually. So with these few words, I thank everyone, you personally and Professor T.V. Rao sir. Thank you very much for being with us. Devashish Prasad Chatterjee, thank you, Prasad Rao. Karunakar Jha is there. Dharmendra is also there actually, and Professor Ali from Oman and many others. And finally, I thank our President AIMS, Professor Sudhir Sharma, for initiating such a nice discussion. And I request all the members, every week we are going to have inspirational sessions for the young faculty and students, and also knowledge sharing sessions. I request all of you to join now and then, and together we can move forward and create a better and vibrant society with a better education practices. So thank you very much. Let us meet again.
Thank you very much, Professor Reddy, for giving me this opportunity. It was a pleasure being here with all the senior people joining. And what I'll do is that I'll share these two documents with Priya. I think you can share it. It's a public document, also available on the UGC website, and maybe a couple of articles that I wrote on this subject. I will also share it with you.
Yes, share it, sir. We can also put it in our website, AIMS website, so that people can also refer the same. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks to everyone on behalf of AIMS, and also thank Mr. Sunil Joshi from the technical support from Pune, and also head office at the Hyderabad for all their support in organizing the webinar session successfully. Thank you very much. See you again.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, sir, see you then. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm logging off now.
Yes.